Hey everybody, my name is Tech here. We're talking about the top 10 TEW 2016 mods out there that you can get your hands on. Now these mods are not 2010 mods that are converted, not 2013 mods that are converted. They are 2016 mods that have been made for this game, and you get your hands on them right now. And every single one of them will have their link down below, but let's just get right into it, starting off at number 10. The first mod we'll be talking about here today is the Afghanic database. It is a mod that procedurally generates characters as you play. You start off with only 10 people, not that much. It is the birth of professional wrestling in itself, set in the 1920s. Of course, there's barely any there's no broadcasters at all, I should say, actually. And as you play and go through the eras, more broadcasters will start showing up, and more characters will start showing up as you have your worker generation set to extreme, as high as you can go, and people start showing up left and right, and it really makes for a really interesting scenario when companies start showing up that, you know, might interact with your company and might screw you over in the end. So if we take a look here and we go to my sim save, we can see a bit of what it is about. We can see that, of course, I simmed over 90 years right here. And we got, of course, all these people that are just some that are really old, and people that have just generated into the game here, and even companies that have generated. Of course, you know, you can see the ones with no logos. There are some that have logos that were kind of meant to show up eventually, but other than that, these ones are just randomly showing up and staying around. It makes for interesting scenarios when you see a company that's been around since the beginning of the 1920s last as long, and some new ones showing up in 2000 that are a threat. So that's gonna do it. It's made by Roll. Of course, links are down below, like I said. Coming in at number 9, we have War of the Immortals 5 Parts Unknown version. Now, this is not a completed mod, sadly, but it is workable and playable, and hopefully eventually someone will get their hands on it and finish it up. Basically, it takes all the wrestlers, they're alive, no matter if they're dead in real life now. For instance, Roddy Piper, Dusty Rhodes, they're all alive. Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, everybody's thrown right in there, they're alive, and they're set in their prime, and they have each division of WWE eras set for companies, and I'll just show you a bit of what I'm talking about here. If we jump into a save, we got here with our Fleetwood Mac, we got Stephanie McMahon here, who's running, of course, what is that, let's see, Ruthless Aggression. So you have different eras of the companies, even WCW, ECW, all of that's right in here, Ring of Honor. And it makes for a really interesting scenario when you see the WWE's going right at it. Of course, they do have some alliances with the newer company, or the newer version of WWE, and compared to the old version of WWE. You can even play as Vince's father with the WWF, Worldwide Wrestling Federation. So it makes for a lot of interesting scenarios here, as I'm going to say that a lot, by the way. I'll probably think of something else to say. But anyways, yeah, if you like playing with just everybody on the field, you don't really care about the ages, you kind of just want everyone in their prime. Another fantasy mod here on the later side of things, then pick it up. For number 8, we're going to take a look at a real-world mod. Now, November 2017, of course, this will be for the Hooey 7. He takes the mods for each month and throws them out there, and he has boasting almost 6,000 workers. If you think of anybody, they're probably in here. He's got tons of broadcasters. He's got tons of companies. Now, not all of them are set to be open. Even some that are open today are set to inactive. So if you want to bring them in there, you can, but they're not necessarily going to be there at the beginning, because this database is going to take forever to load. If you got a good computer, you're going to love it. If you don't have a great computer, for instance, it might be the best thing to take some of the workers and just import them to other mods, as we'll talk about here later on. But, of course, boasting 6,000 workers, you have some that are kind of just generic, and they have the same stats as other ones, and they're not really portrayed right in popularity and everything, but you have everyone. So it's a give and take here. Would you rather have 100% accuracy, or would you rather have 100% of people who actually are in the wrestling industry? So give and take right there with the Hooey 7's real world updates, but I think it's a great mod. Not too much to complain about it, aside from that glaring factor right there. And of course, he's still working on it. That's the one thing. It is a monthly update and release. So props off to him for all the hell he has to go through with TNA, GFW, Impact Wrestling, NWTNA, whatever they're calling themselves this month. Coming in at number 7 is the Diablo X mod by Fleisch. Incredible mod. If you ever loved the 9000 verse from TW 2013 or 2010, this is perfect for you. Now, it might not have the anime side of things, which the 9000 verse was really good for. It has some of the main more pop culture stuff in that sense, and I'd say the stats are way more fitted for TW 2016 than if you were to convert the 9000 verse, but it's still just a hell of a lot of fun to play. If you want Star Wars, you got it. You want Mortal Kombat, you got it. You want and what I preferred about this is that you have DC split off and you have Marvel split off. They're not in the same compared to the 9000 verse. Fantastic mod. I really can't complain about it too much. G.I. Joe's in there. Who doesn't love G.I. Joe? All American hero. So props off to Flash for just a freaking amazing mod, and I really hope you continue this. It's great. It's really good. Let's get mocap in there. Coming in at number 6 here, we have the Reign of Terror 2005 database. It is by That Krypton Guy and my best friend Luke Arthur. How you doing? So we got the 2005 database. You may be wondering, well, what's the best part about it? Now, even though the agers aren't here, we have the companies that are set up to show up, such as Wrestling Society X. That's always great. Of course, workers showing up. You got John Moxley, who's going to show up eventually, and it makes for a really good scenario in the end, especially because the stats aren't really bad at all. They do have some people that are kind of weird why they show up at like 11 years old, I guess. You know, some databases did have like Colby Carino show up at 13, but Pete Dunne shows up at 11. I think Jack Jester's like 10 too. A lot of crazy stuff here, but it makes for some interesting scenarios when you have a certain owner of ROH running things, and we'll leave it at that. Coming in at number 5, we have Risky Business. It is a 1985 mod, starting off in 2013 by Matt Shannon, continuing over to TW 2016. It's a phenomenal mod. The agers are precise, the work is precise, everything just feels right. And you start off in 1985, so you know you're in the mid 80s when things are really starting to kick off in professional wrestling. And of course, you have the companies that are getting ready to show up, and this is going to be utilizing the NGO pick pack. It's not as new with the MSP for the mod squad, so some pictures might be a little bit off if you were to use that, but for the most part they kind of sync up because it's just an updated version from NGO to MSP. But that's besides the point for the pick pack stuff. In terms of Risky Business, you can get your hand on the rockers. They're pretty good. So like I said, this one I did have a lot of fun with. You can see I made it all the way to 1992, 7 years in, and we got some great ones. Of course, I have some generic people showing up here. But let's take, for instance, you know, a young Steve Austin. You can just take him and prime away from WWF, and never gonna happen. Coming in at number 4, at the very height of the Monday Night Wars, is the 1997 mod. Now I'm going to cheat here. We're going to do the Montreal Aftermath and the Montreal Prelude. 2 for 1 there in that sense, because you can kind of save Brett, but at the same time you can have Brett in WCW after the fact. Who doesn't want to book if WCW wins the war, or if ECW wins the war? It's a very great time period to be alive, I guess. I mean, I was not born yet, but still, there's not really much to say. It's the mod squad. You know them, you love them. Their mods are freaking amazing in terms of long term, and yeah, and they're gonna be on here like 2 more times anyways. Coming in at number 3 is 1987. Starting off here in March, we have the Golden Age mod. Once again, created by the Mod Squad. Over 3,000 workers that are going to show up. Over 2,000 agers. 111 companies that'll be there. It's insanity. It really is here. And you can't really argue anything against this mod. Some pictures are a little conflicting. I've seen with the Undertaker maybe having his 2011 picture in 2009. Other than that, if you even make it to 2009, props off to you. That's over 22 years of playing this database, and that's crazy. I know a lot of people would definitely get enough time out of it, and of course, if you wanted to, you could take it all the way up to, I believe the last person that will show up is about in 2012 or 2011. That's still crazy to think up until that point. You don't even need to turn on worker generation. You can just let the game play itself, and new people will start arriving. You can book around them, and it's great. It's great. Coming in at number 2 is the Chronicles Real World Updates made by Flash. The only reason it's at number 2 is because he's kind of slowed down a bit with it being a monthly update, and now it's going to be every 3 or 4 months. Other than that, Fleisch does an amazing job making his mods. Literally, he's at par with the mod squad. They do such an amazing job, just collectively all together for the community. And Fleisch in particular, man, I gotta give it props to him. Just everything he does is it's pretty great. With the here you can see with the agers, we have people that will have classic versions for when they go into the they're not War of the Immortals, the Hall of Immortals, excuse me there. We have so many workers that you just, even though we don't have as many with the Who, we have everything that's kind of necessary to say, oh, if you randomly wanted to bring back Ted DiBiase Jr., he can come back there, and of course you can always mess with it a little bit and import people over, as I was saying before. Now everything just runs smoothly, and I would recommend this as the main real world database to use because of the load times. This is definitely for you if you want the real experience. Now it may not always be up to date because of course with the 3 to 4 month delay there for updates, but if you want something that's really solid and you just have a ton of fun playing, of course the free pictures, I've added a bunch in here, by the way. They're not all his, but he does have a ton of free pictures for people to generate, and of course legacy characters are a key thing in this one also. And then finally, ending it off here today, in my opinion, the number one mod. Y'all might disagree. It might be Fleisch. It might be some other mod on this list. It might be something completely different here. We have 2001 WCW Lives, and I'm going to tie it in with the death of WCW. Of course, if you're playing with the death of WCW, it makes things kind of more interesting in the sense that you can book the invasion angle that everyone always wanted to work out. And you'll get a really good sense of just how powerful WWE is at the time, because you start off with so much money. You can just make your own broadcaster, which is amazing. You have no competition ever, or you can literally start from the ground and rebuild a company or build up a company to face WWE in that mod. Here with 2001 WCW Lives, it's a little bit different. Eric Bischoff has WCW, and you'll be able to take it to newfound heights, hopefully. Of course, we have almost 2,000 agers, still kind of around that same 2,500, 2,653 worker age gap there. Everything runs smoothly, I'll say that. You have companies that will show up. You even have some fantasy companies that will show up, which is very interesting. Like I think Disney Wrestling Entertainment is one, so that's great. Workers that will show up. There's even a couple fantasy ones in there. I think like Triple H's kids and Shane's kids show up, stuff like that. So it continues on that WWE legacy. So that's going to do it here for our top 10 mods for TW. What was your favorite? Tell me in the comments down below. Until then, keep it safe.